Hey guys, JV here with a new episode of my Mass Effect Andromeda Pathfinder Guide series, and today we're mixing it up and focusing on multiplayer. If you feel like taking a break from the single player, and I know there's so much to do and it's really awesome and all, there's a lot of depth in Andromeda's multiplayer. It's really a lot of fun getting into it, but there's just so much more than I can share in a single guide video, especially for a basic starter guide. In this video, we'll cover some helpful things you need to know when getting started in multiplayer. Before we start, just a reminder that I'm uploading Andromeda tips and tricks guides, multiplayer, and my stream playthrough continuing tonight and throughout the weekend for the next few weeks. So if any of that content interests you, be sure and subscribe. I think one of the best ways to explain multiplayer to someone who's never played it before or is rusty on the details is to go through the process of what the gameplay loop is. What are you going to be doing over and over in this multiplayer? First, you're going to choose a character that you're going to play as, and these characters come with 3 active powers and 2 passives. You don't have the wide range of flexibility that Ryder does in the single player, and these characters are loosely based on classes from previous games, different loadouts in, Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, and different archetypes from this game as well. Just like in single player, as you level up and play with the character more, you're going to gain more skill points to allocate within the tree. It's just more rigid because you have, those 3 active powers and 2 passives that you're stuck with each character. But luckily, there are a lot of different characters to play around with. Before a match, you're also going to set your loadout. This involves your weapons, your consumables, stuff like that, just like in single player, and you've got the same power, recharge to weight ratio with your weapons that you have to always keep in mind. Once your character is ready to go, you can hop in a quick match and just find something for your difficulty level or create a match, and you have a lot more freedom with that. So the things that you can choose in terms of your match are the enemies you're going to face, the difficulty of those enemies, and the map that you're on. Starting with enemies, the 3 types of enemies in this game are the Ket, the Remnant, and Outlaws, and each of them have their own kinds of archetypes. Obviously, the Remnant are robotic, so things that are good against synthetics are going to be helpful there, like disruptor ammo is going to be helpful against the Remnant. Outlaws have a lot of armor, so you'll need fire-based abilities, and I would say the Ket are kind of a mix of those too. So just some things to keep in mind. You can queue for any of these, or you can just choose a random enemy. That goes for maps and difficulties as well. As far as I can tell, difficulty level is different in this game. You're not going to see someone who's soloing golds at level 5. You're just not going to see it unless they have a ton of playtime in the game. Right now, the game has 3 different difficulty levels: bronze, silver, and gold. And what you can tackle is based on that individual character that you're using, the weapons that you have, that's also a big part of that, and also your overall prestige bonus stat stuff, which is something we'll talk about later. But generally speaking, this is the model that you can follow at the very beginning. From level 1 to 9 with your specific character, you should be playing bronze. That's what you can handle for the moment. But once you level up to level 10 to 17, you'll want to handle silver because that gives you more experience and more credits at the end of every match, which is great. The highest difficulty right now is gold, and that's level 18 plus, 18, 19, and 20, and you'll need some fairly good weapons as well. But once you've reached that point with one character, you should have some fairly good weapons from packs and all of that stuff. Now, there is a whole prestige system where you reset your character and all that stuff, but I haven't done it myself, so I'm not going to go into that in this video. I think that's more of an advanced thing that we'll cover at a later time. Now, on to what you're actually doing in the matches. So once you figured out your enemy, your difficulty, and your map, you can hop in and you're tackling missions in squads of 4. So it's not like 3 in single player. I guess they felt 4 was a better, thing to work with. That's how it was in Mass Effect 3 multiplayer as well. Your missions, no matter what map, enemy, or difficulty you're doing, are wave-based horde mode. So it's all about horde mode. It's about finding a place that you can hold off momentarily, making sure people can't come behind you or anything. You're not building any defenses or anything like that. It is literally your weapon and your powers and your teammates, and that's what you've got to deal with. But it is wave-based horde mode, and you'll have a certain amount of enemies coming at you as you increase the difficulty. That'll increase, they'll deal more damage against you, they'll have more health. Things just get more difficult across the board, and that's something we should expect, right? So each game is 7 rounds. Each mission is 7 rounds. That's different from the previous game. It used to be 10 rounds, and then the 11th was when you extract and leave. It's always 7 rounds now, and the 7th wave is extraction. So between the first round and the 7th round, you have some objectives. Some of the rounds are objective-based, others are just kill all of the enemies that spawn until you kill the last one and advance to the next round. When you do have an objective round, you'll have to do things like hacking by staying in a specific area for 30 seconds, however long it may be, and that goes faster if you have more people standing in it. Killing specific targets, there's 4 of them running around, they spawn at different intervals. You'll have to kill them in order to complete that objective. You have to disarm devices, have some person basically useless for a little bit while they hold a button and disarm a bot bomb or whatever it may be. The best advice I can give you for objective-based rounds is to always prioritize the objective. So that doesn't mean you need to be the one that's hacking the device, but if your teammate is there hacking it, defend them. Kill enemies around the objective. So if, prioritizing the objective means killing enemies around the objective, do that. If it means physically hacking it yourself, do that. It's always a good idea to stay around the objective, and generally speaking, even in the non-objective rounds, always stay with your teammates. It's tempting to go lone wolf and show off your cool powers and all that stuff, but trust me, things will go a lot more smoothly if you stay with your team. Just like in single player, if Ryder dies or if Cora, Liam, any squad mate goes down, they need a revive. That's how it works in multiplayer as well. So you don't die when you lose all your health. You go into a revive state, you have a certain amount of time to get revived. Now, there are consumables that allow you to pick yourself up automatically. You don't need anyone's help, but you have a limited supply of them, and honestly, you shouldn't use them unless you're in some very specific situations. It's really okay if you die and let the revive go out, because you're automatically respawned when the new wave comes. Now, obviously, if you're on the final wave and it's extraction and you need to get out of there and you're on the opposite side of the map, you might want to use one of those self-revives. It just makes sense, makes it easier on your teammates, and on and on. But if you're self-reviving every single time you happen to go down because something happened, lag, or whatever it may be, you're just wasting those consumables, and it's really not necessary. Like I mentioned before, once you've made it through the first 6 waves, the 7th wave is extraction every single time. And once you get to this wave, you'll have a 2-minute timer that'll count down from the very beginning, and you must be in the extraction zone when the clock hits 0. Now, when you're first getting into multiplayer, it's only natural. You see this and you go to the zone immediately, but that is not what you want to do, because 2 minutes is actually a lot of time for enemies to spawn, to move to your position, and really overwhelm you. Instead of going to the extraction at 2 minutes, you're going to hold off in another part of the map and then head to the extraction zone at 30 seconds. That's a lot better of a time frame. It'll give yourself like 15 seconds to get there and then 15 seconds to hold off until the clock hits 0. It's also very important that you're in the zone when that clock hits 0, because if you're just outside of it, your team will get a partial extraction. I think you get either less experience, less credits, or both. One combination of those. And that just sucks, especially if you're a veteran of multiplayer. Watching your teammate be outside of the extraction zone when they could have been in it is very infuriating, especially when they don't pay attention. So you need to make sure that you're in the zone at 0 seconds to get a full extraction and get all of the bonuses that you get from that. Before we get to what happens after you complete a mission, let's talk about if you fail. And I believe the only failure state is if everyone dies and no one revives, has a metagel or anything like that, or chooses not to revive themselves. That's how you fail, and you will stop at that round. There's no checkpoint, there's no do-over. You actually have to get into a new lobby, queue for a new match, and all of that. So if you fail, you fail completely. You get a little bit of XP, but you don't get any credits, you don't get any of the other rewards. And just a little PSA on this. Some people may not like this line of thinking, but if you're on a bronze, for example, and you can tell that your team is really not in it, they're not helping revive, whatever, don't waste your metagels, guys. Don't revive yourself. I know it's tempting to carry the team and spend 5 metagels on a bronze match, and again, these rules change as you get to silver and gold, because people are using consumables, they're investing extra XP, boosters, and all that kinds of stuff. So if you do this in those matches, they'll get mad at you, but don't waste your metagels on a team that you can tell is not going to survive the rest of the match. It's just not worth it. Moving on to after the match. Once you've completed a mission, you'll gain credits and character experience based on a variety of factors. I believe it's difficulty, how well you did the objectives, and your extraction level. I think there's a bronze, silver, and a gold extraction. Multiple things factor into the quality of your rewards. And so with credits and character experience, you get 2 things. Number 1, you get credits that you spend on loot boxes to give you better rewards. And number 2, the character experience goes into your character, which means you get more skill points to put into your character once you've leveled them up. And essentially, this is the entire gameplay loop. You're playing a mission, you're gaining rewards, you're spending them on better stuff to boost your characters, and then you rinse and repeat. To close out this video, I want to talk a little bit more about loot boxes and rewards and progression and all that kinds of stuff. So if you want to spend your credits, you just scroll down to store, and then you'll find all kinds of different loot boxes, but the ones I'm focusing on are the ones that cost credits. As you can tell, there are different rarity levels of loot boxes. It's really overwhelming. At the top, you've got supply packs, which is very small. It's only 2,000 credits. It's only consumables, no actual gear. And then it just goes up from there. Basic is 5,000, advanced 20,000, all the way up to 100,000, which is a lot of credits. The more expensive, higher quality pack means the higher chance you get for getting better gear out of it. And this is something that seems attractive at first. It seems like I want to save 100,000 credits in order to get the highest pack because then I'll get some really good stuff. And this is not really the way to go about things. I think veterans of Mass Effect multiplayer know this, but you want to start with basic packs, the 5,000 packs. It seems insane, but this is how it works. There's a progression with loot boxes. There's a loot table, and you can eventually get all of the items in the game. That's how this works. You have different ranks and tiers of items, but there is a progression that you go through. The reason you want to only grab basic packs at the very beginning is because you have a chance that your most expensive pack, the 100,000 pack, will give you something that you could have gotten in a 5,000 credit basic pack. The way you force those expensive packs to give you the really good stuff is by buying all of the basic packs first, get all of those bronze basic low tier items before you move up to advanced, and then the 50,000 and then the 100,000. A good rule of thumb is to get all of the 10 or X rank versions of the bronze weapons first. These are the lowest tier weapons that you can get at the very beginning of the game, but once you get the 10 version, you're not going to pull that in a loot box anymore. It's removed from the loot table, so that allows for room to get the more rare stuff. So that's kind of the logic with this, and I hope that made sense. I may make an entire separate video on loot boxes and the progression and how that works in multiplayer if you guys want that, but generally speaking, you want to stick with basic packs first until you work your way up with your gear. Alright guys, that is all I have to share with this basic multiplayer starter guide. I hope this helped you get started and differentiate some stuff if you played the previous Mass Effect 3 multiplayer and are moving on to this. You know, there are a few little differences and nuances here and there, so I hope I picked up on those as well. If you learned something new or just enjoyed this video, remember to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe for Andromeda tips and tricks guides, multiplayer, and my stream playthrough continuing tonight and throughout the weekend. I really can't wait to get back to my adventure with you guys. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.